My family took my money, crashed my car, tried to hijack my wedding, and then showed up at the hospital demanding to see my baby. So I cut them off, took them to court, and watched them lose everything while I built the life they said I'd never have. Hey, Reddit. So get this. My family, who I financially supported for years, let my idiot brother-in-law steal the one thing I actually owned and worked on for months. An old Civic I rebuilt from the ground up with my bare hands. He took it out in the middle of the night with his squad of brain-dead side characters, crashed it less than 5 hours later, totaled the front end, and somehow I ended up being the one they blamed. Yeah, I'm not kidding. No apology, no accountability. Just a bunch of nonsense about how I shouldn't have left the keys where he could find them. Like I'm supposed to hide things in my own garage from a grown man who still lives off handouts and thinks rec league football is a career path. Buckle up, because this isn't one of those fake karma stories. This is real. This is years of built-up favoritism, manipulation, and straight-up disrespect finally boiling over into something legal, ugly, and permanent. I, 27 male, have been financially supporting my family since I got my first paycheck. Not because they earned it, not because they deserved it, just because I didn't want to see them lose the house or live in the dark. But looking back, should have let the power get shut off. Would have saved me years of disrespect. Let's talk about Malik, 22 female, my brother. Lazy, silly, useless, completely convinced he's the next big football star, despite not being on any team. My brother-in-law, and the biggest clown to ever touch a pigskin. I swear the dude spends more time picking outfits for fake training than he does actually running drills. But to my parents, he's the second coming of Tom Brady. Meanwhile, I was working overnight shifts in a warehouse and running side gigs with my grandfather just to stash enough for a future. My girl and I were saving for a place, a real home, something stable, something quiet. We had plans, but I was the only one working for it. Now let me drop some straight-up favoritism stats for you. I had to pay rent just to live in the same crusty room I grew up in. $450 per month, no upgrades, not even a new coat of paint. Malik? Rent-free. Always. He could burn the living room down and my mom would say he's just passionate. I paid to fix the washer, replace the AC, and even helped with groceries. One time I dropped $1,200 to cover back rent. They used that exact money to buy Malik a limited edition football from some third-tier team. Dude couldn't even keep it clean. Left it out in the rain. They treat me like an ATM with legs. The second I say I'm tight on cash this month, I get hit with passive-aggressive Facebook posts about how kids today have no respect for family. But let's talk about the car. The one I poured every spare cent and weekend into. A busted-up old Civic my grandfather gave me. This wasn't just a car. It was my car. My project. My sanity. I worked on that thing like it was therapy. Pulled parts from junkyards. Bought tools off Craigslist. Rewired half the dash myself. Spent nights freezing in the garage just to get it running again. One day, I come home from work and it's gone. Straight up gone. Garage open, keys missing, car nowhere in sight. I thought it got jacked. Plot twist. Malik took it. Didn't ask. Didn't tell. Just straight up took it out for a test spin with his group of failed TikTok pranksters. They went out joyriding like they were shooting a Fast and Furious knockoff. He wrecked it within 4 hours. Slammed it into a ditch trying to drift. Cracked the front, bent the axle, blew the radiator. No insurance, no license, no brain. And you know what my family said when I walked in ready to throw fists? You should have hidden the keys better. I'm not making that up. I'm not exaggerating. They blamed me for not hiding the keys to my car, in my garage, that I rebuilt with my own hands. Malik, zero consequences. Not a fine, not a scolding. My mom actually said, he just wanted to feel like a man. Don't punish him for that. Bro, he's 22. If crashing other people's cars is what makes you feel like a man, maybe you're just a loser. That was the moment I mentally checked out. Like, completely. I stopped sending money. No more rent help. No more repairs. No more emergency transfers. You know what they said? Wow. So now that you're married, we don't matter? Nah. You didn't matter when you let that clown destroy my hard work and then expected me to pay for it like always. My fiancée, let's call her E, was the only one who kept me sane during all this. She saw the whole thing. She told me straight up, you either keep building a future with them or build one with me. And I chose her. From that day forward, I was done. And they had no idea what was coming next, because the wedding was already planned. The invites? Already sent. The date? Already booked. But they weren't going to be there. I was going to make sure of it. All right. So after they wrecked my car and blamed me for not hiding the keys, I was done. No yelling, no arguing. Just done. I stopped answering texts, stopped visiting, stopped sending money. Radio silence. But here's the thing. E and I had been planning our wedding for months. Simple, tight, nothing flashy. Just us, a few friends, some real food, no fake smiles. I'd already dropped deposits, we had a venue, we had a guest list. My grandfather was going to walk us out. Everything was in motion. And yeah, I originally wanted my parents there, until they made it painfully clear where I stood. See, I tried one last time. Call it weakness, call it hope. I handed my mom the invitation in person, told her there was an important event I really wanted them at. I didn't even call it a wedding, just said the date and the time. Her response? That's Malik's big match day. We already promised we'd be there. Now let's be clear on what match means. It wasn't a league game, wasn't college ball, wasn't even a tournament. It was pickup, a community field, 6-on-6. No refs, no scoreboard, just a bunch of dudes yelling over each other and playing like it was recess. But to my mom, we can't miss this. He's been training. Training for what? A Gatorade commercial? I said, okay, no worries. Didn't argue, didn't fight, just smiled, took the invitation back, and walked out. They never asked again. Never checked the date, never mentioned it, just kept talking about Malik like he was the next NFL draft pick, while I was busting my back fixing up an apartment with E and scraping together cash to afford catering. And on the day of the wedding, it was perfect. The weather, spot on. The venue, exactly what we wanted. E looked incredible. Clean, simple dress, no drama. We laughed more than we cried. My friends showed up, some cousins flew in from out of state. My grandfather stood next to me like a wall, said he hadn't seen me smile like that since I was a kid. Gave me a nod right before the vows like he was proud to finally see me choose myself. We didn't even mention my parents. Didn't talk about Malik. It was peaceful, calm. No fake energy, no tension in the air. And the best part? They didn't know. Not until 3 days later. We went phone-free for the whole honeymoon. Took the car we rented and drove out to this quiet spot by the coast. Watched the waves, made real plans, just breathed. First time in years, I didn't feel like someone's backup plan. But when we got home and turned our phones back on, it was chaos. I had 42 missed calls. E had 30 plus. Our inboxes were full. My mom's messages ranged from, "How could you?" to, "You ruined this family," to, "Please come home, we need to talk." Why? Because my aunt posted one photo. Just one. A group shot of us at the wedding. Caption said something like, "Beautiful day celebrating love. Sad some family missed it by choice." That single post lit the whole thing on fire. Apparently, it got around fast. Some of my mom's Facebook friends started asking why she wasn't in the photos. Then it got to her church group. Then her co-workers. My dad's co-workers. Our neighbors. They all started putting the pieces together. Why weren't you at your son's wedding? Didn't you say you were close? I didn't see you in any of the pictures. I guess the pressure cracked my dad first. According to my aunt, he actually cried. Said he felt like a failure. That he didn't even know what day it was because everything was always about Malik. That's how far gone he was. He forgot I was getting married. My grandfather, legend, actually showed up to their house the next day. Didn't call first. Just walked in and let loose. Laid everything out. Said he was ashamed of them. Said they lost the only son in the family who actually had a spine. He told my dad, "You're not a man. You're a shadow behind your wife." My dad didn't even speak. My mom tried to blame me. Said I deliberately didn't say it was a wedding. My grandpa hit her with, "You didn't ask? You never ask? You only talk about Malik like the rest of us don't exist." Apparently, she went silent after that. When I finally opened her messages, they were a mix of threats and pity. "You're dead to me. I gave you everything. You ruined your brother's big day. I miss you. Please come home. You don't know what this did to our reputation." It was never about me. It was about her embarrassment, her ego, her Facebook image. That's when I made the final call. I blocked them. Every single one. My mom, my dad, Malik, even the cousins who started guilt-tripping me with, "But she's still your mother." Nah, she was never a mother to me, not once. The only person from that whole side I didn't block? Grandpa, because he stood by me when no one else did. And yeah, they're broke now. That $500 a month I was sending? Gone. The rent? Late. Malik's football nonsense? Over. But they don't get to blame me anymore. They weren't there for the wedding. They don't get to show up now. So after I blocked them all post-wedding, I thought it was done. Thought they'd stay quiet, lick their wounds, maybe finally get the hint. Nope. They just got louder and nastier. First, it started with guilt messages from the flying monkeys, my mom's sisters, old family friends, second cousins I hadn't seen since 2009, suddenly popping up in my inbox like, "We're worried about your mom. She's heartbroken. Just talk to her." Nah, she wasn't heartbroken. She was humiliated because for once in her life, she didn't get to control the story. Then came the texts from blocked numbers. New accounts, unknown emails, all the same tone. How could you do this to your family? You owe us a conversation. Don't let your wife poison you. That last one hit different. I was at work when E called me sounding shaky. Said she got a weird DM from a burner Instagram account. No name, just a photo of our apartment building and the words, "We know where you live. Maybe he should have kept his mouth shut." It wasn't direct. It wasn't a full threat, but it was enough. I told her to send me everything. Screenshots, timestamps, usernames. I left work early, picked her up, and took her to my grandfather's place. He still had cameras, deadbolts, steel doors, the whole Cold War setup. I knew we'd be safer there. But I was done playing defense. I opened my laptop and started digging. Turns out my parents had been blowing through their savings. Without my monthly support, the rent piled up. Utilities got cut. Malik's football journey hit a dead end. Coach kicked him off the rec team for missing practice. They were broke, desperate, and had no one else to milk. So they did what entitled people always do when the gravy train stops. They blamed the new person, my wife, the woman who helped me build a real life. That's when I got a hold of a lawyer. Her name's Camille. My grandfather recommended her. Said she handled his business disputes back in the day when guys tried to screw him out of property. Camille was tough. No BS. Didn't do emotional coddling. She listened to the whole story like it was a grocery list. Then she looked up and said, "You ready to make this permanent?" I said, "I want them gone." She filed a restraining order the next morning. Not just for me, for E too. Full legal shutdown. No contact, no visits, no weird threats hiding behind new accounts. Any attempt, and they'd be facing a judge. It wasn't just about protecting ourselves. It was about sending a message. You don't get to treat me like garbage for years and then pretend we're family when your bills are due. I paid the retainer in full. Camille handled the paperwork. E's name went on the documents. We backed it up with screenshots, phone records, timestamps, everything. The judge didn't even hesitate. Signed off. Boom. Order granted. You should have seen the meltdown after that. My dad tried to call from someone else's phone. Left a voicemail saying I was tearing the family apart. That I was the problem. That I was holding a grudge. My mom sent a voice note crying so hard I couldn't even understand her. Malik? He sent one text. "You think you're better than us because you married some girl and fixed up a trash car? LMAO, you ain't shut." I laughed so hard reading that I nearly dropped my phone. Guy wrecked my car, never held a job, got booted from adult rec league football, and still thinks he's the main character. By then, it wasn't even about revenge. It was about peace. I started sleeping better. E felt safer. Our apartment felt like home again. No more checking the window every time someone walked by. No more inbox landmines. It was quiet. They weren't allowed near us. Not at the apartment. Not at work. Not even at my grandfather's house. If they showed up, I could call the cops, and they'd be walking out in cuffs. But of course, my mom had one last pathetic move. She called my aunt crying, said she wanted to meet the baby. Yep, you read that right. E was pregnant. We hadn't told anyone yet, hadn't posted anything. So how'd she know? She went through my cousin's Facebook comments, found a picture with a hint of a bump, decided to twist that into an invite to re-enter my life. Nah, you don't get to use a baby as your redemption arc. You don't get to break my car, gaslight my wife, and weaponize my entire childhood, and then act like you deserve to hold my kid. Not happening. I told Camille everything. She updated the restraining order to include future contact attempts related to the baby. Locked that door tight before they even had a chance to knock. Let them cry to Facebook. We were busy building a future they'd never be part of. I didn't think I'd enjoy watching my family unravel. But when you've been the punching bag for 20 plus years, seeing the hands that hit you finally break apart, it hits different. After the restraining order kicked in, things went real quiet. Like eerily quiet. The kind of silence that tells you a storm's coming, but it's not your house that's going to get hit this time. Me and E were just living. Nothing fancy. Mornings with cheap coffee and small laughs. ultrasound appointments, painting the baby's room ourselves. My grandpa dropped by once a week with groceries we didn't ask for, said it was insurance that the baby doesn't come out hungry. That man's old school and blunt, but his loyalty never wavers. Then one night, I get a message from my aunt, not one of the guilt trippers, but the chill one who's always been neutral. Just a screenshot and a two-line text. You might want to see this. Also, holy shit. It was a post from our neighborhood group. Someone uploaded a video of my dad standing outside their house, yelling at a landlord through the screen door. The caption? Tenants from hell didn't pay for months, now blaming everyone but themselves. I didn't laugh. Not at first. I just watched. My dad, who used to look down on me like I was some broken appliance in his garage, was begging for time, arguing that he had a son who used to help until his wife turned him against the family. There it was. My wife's name, thrown around again like she was the problem, like I hadn't been footing their bills long before she ever met them. That night, they got kicked out. U-Haul packed like a Tetris mess, Malik standing there with his gym bag, and nothing else, looking like someone who just got cut from a team he was never on. They were officially homeless. And before you feel bad, don't. These are the same people who laughed when I slept on an air mattress. The same people who let Malik crash my car and said, it's not a big deal. The same people who tried to emotionally corner my pregnant wife. Now they were getting what they earned. But here's where it got worse. For them. Turns out Malik had been borrowing money from some friends. You know, the same fake teammates he always partied with. Promised to pay them back after his deal went through. What deal? No one knows. Probably one of those MLM crypto scams he found on Reddit. Anyway, these guys found out where he was crashing. Some cheap motel my dad booked with the last bit of cash they had, and showed up banging on the door. My aunt said the cops had to be called. There were threats, screaming. Apparently, one guy had receipts for $900 sent via Venmo labeled investment. They thought Malik was going to flip that into something big. Instead, he used it to buy shoes and protein powder. Classic Malik. After that, word got around. Family started talking. The golden boy wasn't so golden anymore. My mom's sisters? They flipped fast. The same women who called me ungrateful last month were now sharing Malik memes in their group chats. One of them even posted, "Some kids turn out this way when you never make them lift a finger." I almost replied with a thank you gif, but I didn't. I just screenshotted it for the collection. My mom tried to get back in again, called my grandpa, left voicemails sobbing about missing her son and needing help. My grandpa didn't even blink. He told her flat out, "You burned every bridge. He's not rebuilding it just because you're standing in the ashes." Boom. Meanwhile, me and E kept moving. I picked up some freelance work to stack extra cash. The baby was due in a couple months. We kept our circles tight. No leaks. No updates to public profiles. We didn't owe anyone visibility into our life. Then came the final nail. They tried to reach out through a lawyer, claimed I was financially responsible for them since I had supported them in the past, said I abandoned them during hardship, and wanted the court to review obligations. Camille shut that down in 3 days. She sent back a letter so cold it might have come with frostbite, cited the restraining order, added a statement from my employer showing I didn't claim them as dependents, and submitted documentation that proved I'd voluntarily supported them, not out of legal obligation, but because I was too loyal for too long. Their case got tossed before it even reached a hearing. After that, dead silence. No texts, no messages, no new numbers, just silence. I'd won. Not out of spite, not to flex, but because I finally stopped letting guilt chain me to people who saw me as a resource, not a relative. I wasn't their son. I was their plan B. Now they had nothing, and I had everything I actually needed. The day my daughter was born, I wasn't thinking about my parents. I wasn't thinking about Malik, about money, about restraining orders. I was thinking about the way E squeezed my hand, about the second our baby cried, and how small she looked in my arms. That moment reset my whole world. Everything before it felt like noise. We named her Amara. She came out healthy, loud, and already kicking. My grandpa joked she had fight in her bones, just like her old man. E was exhausted but glowing. I remember looking at them both in that hospital room and just knowing, this was it. This was the life I was always chasing, and it was finally mine. We stayed in the maternity wing for 2 days. Quiet. Calm. Staff was great. Nurses were helpful. My grandpa visited the next morning with a stuffed monkey and a cooler full of homemade food. He didn't say much, just held her like he'd done it 1,000 times before, and nodded, like everything was finally in the right place. Then came day 3. We'd been cleared for discharge and were waiting on a nurse to process the paperwork. E was holding Amara, feeding her, and I was double-checking the car seat when I noticed something off. Nurse seemed tense. Kept glancing at the hallway. Whispered something to another nurse, who immediately turned and left. I stood up. Is there a problem? She looked uncomfortable. There's a couple here claiming to be your parents. They're in the lobby. They've been demanding to see the baby. I swear my blood pressure spiked in real time. My hands clenched so hard I thought I'd snap the handle of the car seat. They're not on the approved list, I said. There's a restraining order. They shouldn't be anywhere near this building. The nurse nodded fast. We already called hospital security, but they're causing a scene. Of course they were. These people hadn't spoken to me in months. They ignored every boundary, disrespected my wife, trashed our wedding, blamed us for their eviction, and now that there was a baby, they thought they could just show up and act like parents again. I walked straight to the nurse's station and asked for the head of security. 5 minutes later, 2 guards showed up with a folder in hand. They'd already verified the restraining order in the system. All they needed was confirmation. I gave it. Security escorted my parents out of the hospital while I watched from the window near the elevator. My mom was crying, full tears, hands shaking, pulling on my dad's arm like it was some soap opera. My dad looked angry, red in the face, pointing back at the door. I couldn't hear what he said, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't congratulations. As they were pushed off hospital grounds, I felt nothing. Not guilt, not sadness. Nothing. These weren't family. They were just strangers who used to share my last name. We went home the next day. E was still processing everything, but she held strong. She'd seen how ugly my family could get. And even after the hospital stunt, she told me this. She doesn't need to meet people who don't value her dad. And that was that. A week later, we sent out a private announcement to friends and family. Just a small group. People who'd stood by us, helped us move, dropped off diapers, sent gift cards without making it a big deal. They got photos, baby stats, thank yous. No Facebook post, no public gallery. Just love sent quietly to the people who earned it. But my mom couldn't leave it alone. She made a public post anyway. A generic stock photo of a newborn and a caption that said, "Some people forget who held them first, but a mother never forgets." Cringe. She didn't name names, but everyone in her circle knew. Comments started pouring in. People asking where the baby was, why she wasn't in the picture, why she didn't go to the hospital. Some were genuinely confused. Others were passive-aggressive. Then my aunt jumped in, the same one who sent me the video of their eviction. She replied, maybe she should have remembered who fixed her roof and paid her rent before playing victim. Mic drop. Comments exploded. My mom deleted the post the next day. Then she made her account private. A few hours later, Malik's account vanished too. They were done. No more public victim show. No more guilt campaign. Later that month, I got a certified letter. It was an apology. A real one. Handwritten, shaky ink, 4 pages long. From my dad. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't mention Malik. He just said he saw everything now. That he'd wasted years backing the wrong kid. That he let my mom steer the whole family off a cliff. That he didn't blame me for cutting them off. That if I never spoke to him again, he understood. I didn't respond. I kept the letter. It's in my drawer next to Amara's birth certificate. Not because I forgive him, but because one day, when my daughter's older, I want her to know exactly what I walked away from, and why. You'd think after getting tossed from the hospital, blasted on social media, and steamrolled in court, they'd finally get the message. But some people only learn when it costs them everything. It started small. Weird rumors popping up in group chats from my hometown. Stuff like, he's keeping the baby from them, and the wife's manipulating him, and even one that said I'd used the baby to get revenge. Like I was running some long con. People love to rewrite stories when they're not the main character anymore. Then came the fake remorse campaign. My mom sent birthday cards for Amara with no return address. No money, no gifts, just "Grandma loves you," written in looping, forced handwriting. We burned them. I didn't even let E see them. Not because she couldn't handle it, but because we both agreed. Amara wasn't going to grow up knowing those people ever existed. But they weren't done. A month later, Camille called. She had that tone she used when something dumb was about to happen. Your parents filed a grandparent visitation petition. They're trying to force access to the baby. I laughed, out loud. Because seriously, after everything they pulled, they were now trying to legally demand time with my kid? These were the same people who sent threats, showed up uninvited, dragged my wife's name through the dirt, and tried to sue me for cutting off financial support. Camille told me not to worry. Said these things rarely go anywhere unless there's proof of an existing relationship between the child and grandparents. We had none. E and I kept our records airtight. And the restraining order? Still active. But they still tried. In court, my dad showed up in a wrinkled suit like he was auditioning for sympathy. My mom cried before the judge even walked in. Malik wasn't there. No surprise. He'd gone full ghost since the Facebook post disaster. They had no case, no photos, no letters, no proof of any contact with Amara. Just a bunch of shaky statements about wanting to make things right and family ties being sacred. Camille stood up, presented our documentation. Restraining orders, threats, screenshots, eviction notices, and that Facebook post with the stock photo. She read the comment thread aloud in court. People laughed, not joking. There was actual snickering from the back row when my aunt's comment came up. Judge dismissed the petition in under 15 minutes. It was over. Legally, publicly, completely. My mom didn't even wait until she got to the parking lot to blow up again. She screamed at Camille, screamed at the clerk, said the system was broken, that mothers don't deserve this. My dad just stood there, didn't say a word, just stared at me as we walked out, like he couldn't believe the son he used to ignore now had all the power. That was the last time I saw them. Not heard from. Saw. Because after that, they vanished. No more fake accounts. No more random texts. Just total radio silence. They tried to drag out the hearing by submitting character references. Some random neighbor, a former coworker of my mom's, even an old church friend. They all wrote glowing things about what wonderful grandparents they were. None of them had ever met Amara. None of them had ever called to ask how E was doing during her pregnancy. It was just a paper wall to look respectable in court. Camille shredded it in 5 minutes. She cross-referenced dates, dug up their eviction record, and brought copies of every voicemail and message they ever sent. She didn't just bury them. She buried the shovel, too. The judge wasn't playing around either. He made a point to address the courtroom before the decision. Said, "This court does not exist to fix broken family dynamics caused by years of favoritism and neglect. It exists to protect the child." And that was it. Dismissed. No appeal allowed. Outside, as we walked to the car, E squeezed my hand. "Is it really over?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "It is." We sat in the car for a minute. No music. Just the quiet. That kind of quiet where you feel something leave your chest that's been sitting there for years. I looked at her and said, "We can finally start fresh." That night, we went home and made real plans. Not survival plans, not backup plans. Actual goals, schools, vacations, what kind of backyard we wanted, whether we'd get a dog. Malik got blocked by the gym's official account after he tried DMing them pretending to be an influencer. My aunt sent me a screenshot. He had 413 followers and was trying to trade shoutouts for merch. One comment under it just said, "Bro, you live in your mom's friend's basement." That was the last anyone heard of him. As for my parents, they ghosted everyone. Family said they stopped answering calls. My mom took down all her Facebook posts. No more bragging, no more fake quotes about forgiveness. Just gone. Like the fantasy bubble they lived in finally popped. And me? I was just free. It didn't mean everything was perfect, but it was peaceful. For once in my life, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I swore I'd never let my daughter grow up thinking love comes with conditions, or that silence is the price of peace. She was going to know better. Because I finally did. It's been over a year with my wife and my daughter. We moved to a quieter area. Small house, decent yard, good neighbors who mind their business. The kind of place where people wave but don't pry. Exactly what we needed. Amara just turned 1. She's walking now. Messy, loud, unstoppable. Wakes up with a mission every morning like she's got rent to pay. I respect it. E's good. Stronger than ever. Went back to work part-time. Started this little side hustle she runs from home. She's not flashy, not loud, but she's sharp. Has this calm way of handling life that makes the chaos feel small. I owe a lot to her. My grandpa still visits every Sunday. Same time, same routine. Brings groceries we don't ask for, tells me which tools I'm still not using right, and spends half the afternoon walking Amara around the backyard like it's a sacred ritual. She loves him more than I think she'll ever love cartoons. As for the rest of the family, still gone. No texts, no random packages, nothing since the court hearing.